Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday the 17th of January. So let's have a quick look at the key news events first as ever, the possible impact data. We've already seen the GDP. No, we haven't seen the GDP. It should have been released. It must have been already released on the GDP. Let me just refresh my Tuesday 17th. There it is, 2.9 versus 1.6. So good news in the Asian markets. I would have thought from that sort of number. Claimant count change pretty much in line for the UK. Average earnings slightly up still. That's inflationary and it puts more pressure on the central bank. Will be watching that, and there's less hope of any let up in interest rate increases when we're seeing average earnings pushing up. It's so inflationary. Aside of that today then, we've got the German economic sentiment coming out at 10 o'clock. It doesn't move the markets massively, although it's highlighted on here, but there's so much else to be worried about, I think, at the moment. Talking of which, there's inflation for the Canadian inflation out later. Should watch this carefully. We're sort of seeing, it was looking at one stage that we'd seen the end of increases in interest rates, but this might just extend it even further. Okay, if these numbers are high. So this is where we are on the news. So be careful with trading later on the CAD. Okay, as we look at the euro dollar, then let's have a look at the currencies. Last couple of days consolidated, not really going anywhere. It's in fact, it sort of did a bit of divergency looking price action over the top there on the 4 hourlies. As we come down, then hourlies are just chopping and consolidated at the moment. Which way they're going to go? It's a coin throw at the moment, realistically. The bigger trend is still very much the upside. The way on the bigger time frames it's consolidating around the highs here would suggest that there's demand sitting there still, and we could see a continuation to the upside. So I think the odds are slightly in favour of the upside, but that doesn't mean to say it's going to fire off at this morning straight through. And at the moment we're sitting below the daily pivot, which is not the most bullish sort of signal. The pound also it doesn't really show how choppy it is on the lower time frames. When you get down here, it's quite choppy over these time frames here. This week it's been choppy up until now. If you come down to the hourlies here, you see how try and work out something from that. Okay, it's ticked off the daily pivot. Is it going to have the momentum to push on through and continue? We'll have to wait and see, but for now it doesn't look the best. But I guess the bigger trend, and the trends that are going through there are bullish. Something that I'm still looking at, it's on the downside, but I'm just waiting now, being patient and trying to get in a bit earlier, but not to be yesterday. But I've put myself an alert by the weekly pivot there to see if we get a hit into the pivot and the reaction to that pivot. I was looking at these yesterday wondering whether they'll be caught, but there's the point. There's a trend line across the lows, of course. Below that trend line, below the daily pivot, it certainly would be a bit more bearish for the US dollar against the Japanese yen here. Okay, that's the yen. Aussie dollar. So the Aussie dollar's had a decent sort of move up there. As I started analysing this, though, it's sort of breaking out of that trend, looking quite messy again where it is. It hasn't broken this prior low here. It could well find itself some support where it is and break on through. The overall drift is a softer dollar. So the picture I'm seeing at the moment, so with a softer dollar, if these markets can consolidate, at least one or two of them may have a decent move. Finally, US dollar CAD. Well, This was a difficult one to try and follow from a daily perspective, let alone anything else. It's been up and down like a yo-yo, and not really showing too much in the way of where it's going. If we see a weaker dollar, I would expect this to be coming off some more, but it's a big zero, so I'll leave that alone. Other pairs that you might look at, they're all yen pairs really. You just sort of look at some of these the trends that are sitting behind these bear flags, and it's just a case of when again looking at pivots on the euro yen there, the pound yen, same picture. You got the flag, the Aussie yen, same picture. So there's plenty of flags to choose from. Maybe it's which one's going to actually move. Okay, so that's the forex market. The rest of the pairings are very choppy, and not really showing such clear moves. Now, of course, these may deteriorate the nice patterns that we're seeing here as the longer we sit there waiting. Right, let me just change markets then. So switching across to gold here first. Gold yesterday, I was sort of looking for the potential continuation on the upside. It's not really doing that at the moment. I've still got an alert sitting up. I had an alert sitting up there. You can see it didn't trigger that until, well, looks like it's had a little try there. But again, we got effectively, in the bigger scheme of things, a bit of a flag. Lower highs coming through though on it. It's not where it's not the easiest point here. I would like to see it positively above the pivot on the long side. So at the moment, drifting off south. Looking at crude. So yesterday did an about turn here, just never managed to hold in there. On the upside there, pulled back, sort of just softened up a little bit, and you can see that right the way through here. Lower highs coming through here. Now I really want to see a higher low going the upper way to maybe jump on the bandwagon, but this short-term trend still seems to be there. Right, at the equity markets, I thought the CSI 300 would have been up a bit more than it is. It's looking at a daily, it's fractionally down now, but the data I saw released there, I thought we'd have seen something a little bit more positive, with the GDP coming through a bit higher. Anyway, the Nikkei, well, that is a bit more positive. Filled yesterday's gap, but overall still in this sort of very ugly downtrend. It might be that there's been a bit of rhetoric out since suggesting that maybe rates won't change or tightening monetary policy won't tighten so quickly, but maybe backtracking. Nifty 50 still continues in its downward trend. Yesterday it did pop and drop then, but it's generally in a downward trend there, sitting solidly down. As soon as we get across to the US markets here, and it's a bit like looking at the currencies, similar picture, hanging around a high. Okay, not an all-time or near-term highs even. This is quite a way away from the high yet, but same principle in terms of it's pushed back up there, chopping along at the moment, almost same price action as the euro dollar. They are highly correlated, and well, we're seeing the consequences of that. The Dow Jones, similar picture, and the Nasdaq, similar, all sort of tighten around the highs there, but the price action is sitting around the highs, which to me would suggest there's potential more chance of a shove upwards. Okay, the DAX, looking at DAX this morning, well, that didn't really hold on to its gains yesterday, but again, consolidating where it is. It sort of came off in the morning through to 8 o'clock. The rally didn't really go off that 50, didn't really push up there too strongly. It just there are signs of weakness whenever a market actually consolidates down the flag a little bit down here. Does question things a little bit, or does for me question things a little bit. Is it going to just roll over? Is this a second wave and off it's going to run? So a bit questionable there. The FTSE. So the FTSE, well, the futures are up at the moment on this. It's been pushing up and up. It's certainly not one I would want to be selling against at this stage. Yep, retracements, but potential for further upside there. It's just looking at what's happening, but it just slowed up. But whilst this has slowed up, it hasn't sort of pulled back and slowed. It's slowed around its highs. And it's pushed up again. It's slow. It's still slow around the highs. So to me, that's a much more bullish market. Okay, that's pretty much it there. I wish you a great day's trading, and I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Bye for now.